today we will discuss about designs of experiment, and in this topic we will be discussing how we can arrange our data in different groups and different patterns so that we can achieve at our required conclusion. So before anything, let's introduce what is design of experiment. So experimental designs are used to design an experiment to achieve the required conclusions, right? It helps us to plan the experiment right from deciding the number of observations required for the experiment to which observation receives what treatment under study. Now there are few terms that may not be very familiar, like treatments, observations, etc., etc. So that we will discuss in our next lecture. Now the entire concept of design of experiment is based on the concept of analysis of variance. So let me give you a brief idea about analysis of variance. So imagine there is a test to measure the IQ level of students, right? So we are interested in IQ level, and there are two different schools, right? One say school A, one is school B. Now if the test, let's say the test is of 100 marks and we carried out the test on 30 students of school A and 40 students of school B. Obviously all the 30 students of school A on all the 30 students of school B will not perform equally. Their marks in that particular examination out of 100 will vary, right? That variation, right? So their marks will vary. So we are interested in the variation. Now the variation, first thing that we can think of is that there will be a variation within the students of a school, right? So in every school there will be some very good students, some mediocre, and some low performing students, right? So the marks of those 30 students from a particular school A will vary, right? So that variation we call is a within variation, right? Within variation. So this within variation means the marks that are being varied within a particular school. Now we also know that students of A on an average may completely be different. The marks obtained by students of A on an average may completely be different from that marks obtained by the different school. So there is a variation between schools also, right? So that is called between school variation, right? So we have identified two causes why their marks of this 70 students. So as a whole, if you see, you have 70 numbers, right? That is our data set. We have 70 numbers. Now in these 70 numbers, all numbers will be different. Some may be common, right? So the numbers or the marks obtained by these 70 students are changing. They are fluctuating. That is called variation. Now the change in their marks may be either because the students have their own capabilities, right? And another factor may be the way the different school teaches their students or prepare their students. So there is within a school variation and there is within or between school variation. So we have identified two causes for their variation. But these are not enough. There may be some other factors also that may lead to their variation, right? So those factors, maybe someone was not very well on that examination day, someone has some other priorities, someone is not interested in that particular subject or in that particular test. So there are so many factors that can lead to their change in marks, right? We are assuming that everyone will get 100 marks, but their marks are changing. Why they are changing? We have found out two major factors. One is their capabilities, one is their teaching style of the two different schools. But there are so many small factors that can lead to their change in marks. So these small factors, though they are not that prominent, but ultimately they result in a high amount of change. These small factors are called errors. So we call them as errors, right? And this analysis of variance is a technique or is a process in statistics where we explain different types of reasons for the changes or the variations, keeping in mind that our ultimate objective is to reduce error. That means we want to explain as much as cause of variation as possible, right? So that is analysis of variance, and based on the concept of analysis of variance, we have certain standard designs of experiment, right? So there are some terms that are commonly used or very frequently used in the theory of designs of experiment. First one is experiment. We all know experiment is a research, right? So we have a certain objective. We will have a objective, and for that objective we want an answer, right? Keeping in that objective in our mind, we want an answer for that. And a process of starting from scratch to achieving that answer is called experiment, right? Right from beginning up to the conclusion, the entire process is called an experiment. For example, let's say I want to see what is the impact of a particular diet plan. Let's say I'm diet A, right? I want to see the impact of diet A on the increase of milk by cows, right? Increase in milk or decrease in the impact of diet A on the production of milk by cows, right? So that is my objective. So that if I started from scratch, I will collect data, I will do the necessary statistical test, I will infer about the particular test, and then I will make a conclusion. So that will be called an experiment, right? Now what is treatment? Treatment is that particular you can say the effect for which you are going for, or the objective, you may say the objective that you want to test, right? So in this example, diet A is the treatment that I am interested in. So I have applied diet A to a certain range of observations or a certain individuals, and based on the information collected from those individuals, I will infer whether there is a significant difference or not, or whatever I am interested in. So that is treatment. Let's say you want to compare two different diets, right? Diet A and diet B. You have two different diets and you want to compare, giving which diet increases the production of milk more, right? So in that case, I have two treatments, treatment diet A and treatment diet B, right? So that is treatment. Now what is experimental units? In this example, every cow will be an experimental unit, right? So suppose you have given this diet A and diet B to let's say 10 people, right? 10 people going to gym and 20 people going to another gym, right? In such a case, every person going to gym will be called an experimental unit. So experimental unit is basically the person or the item on which you are making the experiment, right? In our first example, we are making that experiment on cows. So every cow will be an experimental unit. In the next example, we are making an experiment on people visiting gym, right? So those people will be our experimental units, right? The next word is blocks, right? So blocks are basically groups. In many situations, what happens is that your entire experiment is not homogeneous. Let's say you are going to find out the increase in production, right, of cows. But you should keep in mind that every breed of cow has different capabilities, right? So if you randomly select some breeds, different breeds, and then you make an conclusion on them, that may be a mistake. So you will have to treat different breeds differently, right? So making groups of similar items is called blocks, right? Creating blocks. So suppose I have a breed called X, I have a breed called Y, I have a breed called G. So all the cows of breed X will be in this group. All the cows of breed Y will be in a different group. All the cows will of breed G will be in a different group. So grouping different cows based on their breed is called creating a block. So a block is basically group of similar items, right? Similarly, in this example of gym going people, you may treat male and female differently because male and female has different kind of body structure, different kind of way they gain or they lose weights, right? And they have different objectives visiting gym. So if you treat all of them similarly, that will be a very heterogeneous experiment, and the conclusion drawn from that may not be very appropriate. So what we do, we make similar groups. So I can divide groups into genders, right? Male and female. Similarly, there may be another groups based on their ages, right? So you have a limitless possibilities. So dividing items into homogeneous group is called blocks. And what is yield? Yield is the final result. So in case of our first example that we are going to examine the production of milk, right? In that case, how many liter of milk they produce every day will be our yield. That means the result that we get from our experimental units. In this case, if I am interested in gaining weights by the people visiting a particular gym, then yield will be their gaining 18 kg, right? So that is yield. And last one is error. Now what is error? Error I have already discussed in explaining analysis of variance. Error is that proportion which were unexplained, right? The amount of variation in our yield, right? The result, why they are varying, and the amount that we cannot explain, that cannot be explained, is termed as error. The lesser the value of error, the better is your experiment, right? You don't want to attribute a large amount of error. Higher the value of error, the weaker is your conclusion, right? So these are the terms that we normally use in a design of experiment. And there are three principles of designs of experiment, right? There are three principles, and these principles are very important. The first one is replication, the second one is randomization, and the last one is called local control. Now replication replication by the name you suggest is that repetition of the treatments, right? So it is not advisable, say you have two treatment, one is diet A and one is diet B, and imagine there is only one person to which you have given this diet and the outcome is 20, let's say 20 kg, right? And the diet B, the outcome is 25 kg, right? So we have only a single observation from both the treatment. This is one treatment, this is another treatment, and we have a single observation from both the treatment. So from a single value we cannot conclude or we cannot compare two treatments. It is not possible. That's why we collect more than one observations per treatment. So there will be one person called A or X, one person called Y, one person called G, etc., etc. And for all this person we will collect information. So we are basically repeating this treatment. That means we are giving this treatment to more than one people, right? Or more than one experimental unit. That process is called replication. So repeating your treatment more than one is called replication. Now why we do replication? It ensures more reliable estimates of the error and it reduces experimental error, right? It ensures more reliable estimate and reduces experimental error. That means the higher the number of observation you collect, lesser will be the error, right? The next principle is randomization, right? So randomization is, suppose in this example, diet A and diet B, you are giving diet A to everyone coming first come first basis. That means diet A, there are 10 people in that gym, and you are giving diet A, diet A, diet A, diet A, diet A, right? And only at the end you are giving diet B, B. Now in this process you are not being random, right? You are not selecting people randomly, you are selecting people as per your choice. Now selecting experimental unit for a particular treatment as per the wish of the researcher is not advisable, and without randomization no statistical tests are valid. One key point or one key assumption or one key requirement of every statistical test is that your observation or your data set is random, right? So if you don't randomize your treatment, that means if you don't randomly allocate or assign treatments to experimental units, then your conclusions are not valid. So randomization ensures the validity of the estimates or the conclusions. The word estimates mean conclusion, right? And the last principle is local control. So local control is basically dividing your heterogeneous experimental space into homogeneous groups, right? Just like in this example, we have different breeds of cows, and together if you consider all the species or breeds, that is a very heterogeneous population or heterogeneous experimental space. If you divide them into their respective breed groups, this makes them homogeneous. So this dividing your heterogeneous experimental space into homogeneous groups is called local control, right? So we have three principles. One is called replication, one is called randomization, and one is called local control. So Fisher gives us a diagram that is very useful to identify or to know or to memorize the different roles of these three principles. The first one is replication, next one is randomization, and local control. So replication and randomization together gives us validity of estimates. So together these two properties or principles ensure that your conclusions are valid, right? Replication and local control together ensures that your errors are as minimum as possible. You always want your errors to be or your mistakes to be minimum, right? So replication together with local control ensures that your errors are minimum. Replication with randomization ensure that the conclusion that you will draw at the end of your experiment are valid, are statistically valid. Okay? So there are three different types of designs that are very commonly used and that we will discuss in this course. They are completely randomized design, randomized block design, and Latin square design. All of these three designs has different purposes, and based on the time based on the items that you want to consider, your design changes, right? The very first is completely randomized design. It is the most simple way of comparing treatments, right? So what is CRD? Completely randomized design, in short CRD. Suppose you have k treatments applied to n number of observations, right? So you just have treatments and you want to apply them to a group of people or group of individuals or group of items. So if you want to be very simple, you can apply CRD, right? So let me give you an example to explain it, right? So we have the same example, two diet plan, diet A and diet B, right? And there are 20 people who are ready for the experiment. That you have 20 people for the experiment. So in that case, what is K treatments? In our case, we have 2 treatments. So K will be equal to 2. What is this 20? 20 is the number of observations that you have. So N is equal to 20, right? So out of this 20, one way is that you will equally divide 10 people for diet A and 10 people for diet B. That is one way. And you will give diet A to 10 people, you will give diet B to 10 people. At the end of 1 week or so, you will collect the data of their gain in weight, right? That gain in weight is called yield, right? And every people in this 20 are called an experimental unit, right? This diet A and diet B are treatments, right? So you divide the group or experimental units into 2 groups, giving diet A to one group, giving diet B to second group. But it is not necessary that you will or equal number of people will take diet A and diet B. If the choice is upon the experimental units, that means the people, then different people can opt for different diets. Let's say 15 people choose diet A and 5 people have taken diet B, right? So we have unequal number of observation from both the treatments. But in case of CRD, it is okay. The number of observations under each treatment may not necessarily be equal. You can give different observation numbers or a different size to different treatments, right? Different number of repetitions to different treatments, right? So what is the purpose of CRD? When we use CRD, suppose you want to see whether the average gain by diet A and average gain by diet B are different or same, right? Now in case of 2 groups, that means if you want to see whether diet A and diet B, whether their averages are significantly different, you may say that why we are going for CRD, we have another way, that is t-test, right? T-test. So when you compare 2 groups, you can use t-test. But what happens if you have 3 groups? That means diet A, diet B and diet C. In such a case, if you have 3 groups and you want to simultaneously compare the average gain by these 3 different types of diets, then you cannot use t-test, right? Independent sample t-test. In such a case, we use the concept of CRD, right? So this design is used when we want to see if the average effect of these treatments are significantly different or not. So if you have more than 2 treatments or the more than 2 items to compare and you want to compare the average effect, then you go for CRD, right? And in case of CRD, we are only using randomization and replication, the concept of randomization and replication. So there were 3 concepts, right? Replication, randomization and local control. But in case of CRD, we are completely ignoring the local control, right? So we are not dividing the experimental units or the items under study into homogeneous groups. That is one drawback of CRD, but it is simple. So the layout is, if you have this is your experimental space or the number of people ready for the experiment, depending on the number of treatments, you will divide them into K groups and each group will receive a particular treatment A, B, C, D up to K. In A, there may be N1 items. In B, there will be N2 items. In C, there will be N3 items up to Nk items, suppose, right? And at the end, if you add them, you should get the total number of items that you started with N, right? So in the previous example, we started with 20 and N1 is 15, N2 is 5. So if I add N1 plus N2, I get the total number 20. So that is your layout of CRD. Now what are the calculations for CRD? So suppose you have k treatments, right? In that case, every experimental design, whether CRD or RBD or LSD, they will have one thing called the ANOVA table. Now what is ANOVA table? ANOVA stands for analysis of variance, right? As I have already mentioned, the design of experiment is based on the concept of analysis of variance. So the ultimate table is called an analysis of variance table. So basically this table is nothing but the formulas required for your calculation. So I will show you the different calculations using an example. But for now, let us see what are the different sources of variation. The sources of variation in case of CRD is treatments, errors, and total. What is the total variation? What proportion of the total variation is due to treatment, and what proportion of the total variation is due to errors, right? And if there are k treatments, the degrees of freedom will be k minus 1. Since there are n items, the degrees of freedom will be n minus 1. And degrees of freedom for error is obtained by subtracting this value from this. That means n minus 1 minus k minus 1. So if you solve, you will get n minus k. So this is error, right? So you should remember, error, the degrees of freedom for error is obtained by subtracting the degrees of freedom for treatment from degrees of freedom from total. That means n minus 1 minus k minus 1, right? Degrees of freedom. Then we calculate sum of squares. I will show you how to calculate this sum of squares. So we calculate sum of square due to treatment. SST means sum of square due to treatment, right? SST, sum of squares due to treatment, right? Similarly, SSE is sum of squares due to error, right? And TSS is total sum of squares, right? So these are the meaning of SST, SSE and TSS. Each of them has their individual formula that we will discuss. So SSE and TSS. The next column that we calculate for this particular test. So imagine this CRD, this test, ANOVA test. This CRD is also called, or the table for CRD is also called one-way ANOVA, right? This is also just like t-test, chi-square test, like one-way ANOVA is also a statistical test. So if you don't understand the concept CRD, but if you focus on the table, you will be clear about the idea behind CRD. So CRD is designing an experiment when you want to test a certain number of treatments. So the treatments, if it is greater than 2, then we apply one-way ANOVA. If it is equal to 2, then obviously you can do the same thing using t-test, right? So once you calculate sum of square, the next column that we calculate is called mean squares. Now what is mean square? This is mean square due to treatment. This is mean square due to error, MSE. Okay, this is mean square due to error. Now mean square due to treatment is obtained by dividing the sum of square by their respective degrees of freedom. So if you divide sum of square by their degrees of freedom, you get mean square. So that's why for MST we are dividing SST, that means the sum of square due to treatment, by the degrees of freedom, that means k minus 1. Similarly for MSE, that means mean square due to error, we are dividing SSE, that means sum of square due to error, divided by its corresponding degrees of freedom, n minus k. This should be n minus k, right? And for total we do not calculate mean square for total is not necessary, right? And the last is the f. Now f is a test, just like t, f is a test statistics or a formula. Now the formula for ANOVA is f, and it is given by the mean square due to treatment divided by mean square due to error. So error always lies in the denominator. The thing for which you are calculating f, in this case we are calculating it for treatment, that's why MST in the top, MSC in the bottom, right? So this is the formula. So how to conclude from this table? You will calculate the values of degrees of freedom, you will calculate the values of sum of square, you will calculate the values of mean square, and finally you will calculate the value of f. Once the value of f is calculated, you will compare the value of f with tabulated value, right? You will compare the value of this ft with tabulated value with how many degrees of freedom? With k minus 1 comma n minus k degrees of freedom, because the ratio is MST and MSC, right? In top we have MST, bottom we have MSE. For MST is calculated from SST, and SST has a degrees of freedom k minus 1. That's why the first degrees of freedom is k minus 1. Bottom we have MSE. For MSE the degrees of freedom is n minus k, so n minus k. So for f, basically for f we have 2 degrees of freedom required to find out the tabulated value, right? So it's like x comma y type, you will have a pair of degrees of freedom. So here the pair of degrees of freedom will be k minus 1 comma n minus k, right? Okay, let me get back and solve an example for CRD. So before moving to RBD, I will solve an example for CRD. So this is an example. Here we are given that there are 4 treatments. The treatments are A, B, C and D, and this all the treatments are repeated equal number of times. All the treatments, there are 5 observations under each treatment, right? 5 observations, and these are nothing but totals. Total of this of treatment A, total of treatment B, total of treatment C and total of treatment D, right? And in this t square means the square of this, that means I am squaring 209 square, that is 47,961. Similarly 355 square, 407 square and 714 square. This is t square, right? So for calculation we need sum of square due to treatment, right? We need sum of square due to error, and we need total sum of square, right? So once these values are obtained, we need mean square due to treatment and we need mean square due to error, right? Once these 2 values are obtained, we can calculate ft, right? Ft will be this value divided by this value, MST by MSE. Okay, so let me write down the formulas now. So for calculation of the different terms that is used in ANOVA, one-way ANOVA, first we calculate raw sum of square. From now on I will denote sum of square by this SS, right? So raw sum of square is nothing but every observation first squared and then added. So if you have n observations, every observation, these n observations will be first squared and then added, right? That is RSS or raw sum of square. Next we calculate something called correction factor. CF means correction factor. The correction factor is g square by n, right? What is g? G is grand total, right? G is grand total. So if you square the grand total and divide it by n, let me write the small n here, n is number of observations. So first we will calculate the raw sum of square, RSS. Then we will calculate correction factor, g square by n. Then we will calculate total sum of square. This is total SS, sum of square, which is equal to raw sum of square minus correction factor. So if you subtract the value of this raw sum of square and correction factor from it, you get total sum of square, right? That is total sum of square. Now what is treatment sum of square or sum of square due to treatment? This is SS due to treatment. This is given by K minus CF T1 whole square. So imagine you have K treatments, right? All these K treatments, say T1, T2 up to Tk. So you will have observations under each treatment. You will add the observations or yield, right? This will give you the total. Then you will square the totals, right? So that is T1 square of this total T2 square, and finally we will add all the totals and divide it by number of treatments. So how many treatments? We have 5 treatments in our example, so we will divide it by 5 and we will subtract the CF, right? So this will give you sum of square due to treatment. So we got sum of square due to treatment and total sum of square. The next thing is SSE, that is sum of square due to error. Now sum of square due to error does not require any kind of special formula. You just subtract SST from total sum of square. That means the value obtained here and the value obtained here, the difference between them will give you SSE. Just like their degrees of freedom. For degrees of freedom of sum of square or error, we used to subtract the total degrees of freedom and the degrees of freedom due to treatment. So similarly, sum of square due to error will be the difference between total sum of square and SST. This will give you the value. So once you obtain SSE, SST and TSS, your job is done. You can go to the table, you can fill up the remaining columns and you can obtain the value of F, right? So let's go back to our example. So we need, first thing that we need RSS, right? I will do the calculations. So here I will calculate RSS, right? Then we need G means grand total. Then we need correction factor, right? So if you get these values, you can calculate SST, TSS, SST and then SSE, right? So RSS is basically, you have to square 55 square plus 49 square plus 42 square plus 21 square plus 52 square all the way to 154 square, right? So you will have to square them and then add them, not add them then square them. That is G square. Squaring them and adding them will give you RSS. adding them and squaring them will give you CF, right? So in Excel or in a spreadsheet like this, there is a option sum SQ, SUM SQ, that gives you the squares, sorry, sum SQ. Within bracket, I will select this data, bracket close. So this over here 181445 is the value of the raw sum of square. That means 55 square plus 49 square plus 42 square all the way to 85 square plus 154 square. If you do that manually, you will get the same value, right? Now I need G. G is the grand total. Grand total means you have to add them. So this time a simple sum of all these values, and the grand total is 1695, right? So what is the correction factor? The formula for correction factor is Z square by N. So this equal to, we will have 1695 square divided by N. N is total number of observations. In this case, every treatment has 5 repetition and we have 4 treatments. That means 4 into 5 is 20. So we will divide it by 20. So what is the correction factor? Correction factor is 143651. Right? 0.25. So we got correction factor. So what is SST? Sorry, first we calculate TSS, that is total sum of square. Now I said total sum of square is RSS minus correction factor, which is equal to 37793.75, right? So that is TSS. The next step is to find out SST, sum of square due to treatment. Sum of square due to treatment will be obtained. These are the T square. I will add this T square divided by number of treatments or number of observations per treatment, sorry, 5, and subtract correction factor. So SST will be equal to, so if you, let me break down the calculations. First I will calculate the total. So this is equal to sum, or this plus this plus this plus this, right? This is a total of T square. That means this is giving us this figure, the numerator, T1 square, T2 square, T3 square, T4 square, because we have 4 treatment. Now this is the number of repetitions, actually number of repetitions per treatment. So we have 5 treatments, so we will divide it by days divided by 5, right? So this 1698862 is giving us the entire figure. The next thing left is to subtract the CF, right? So we will directly write it here. This is equal to this minus CF. The value is, SST is 26234.95, right? So how to get SSE? The formula to get SSE is TSS minus SST. So what is TSS? 37,793.75. What is SST? 26,000. So SSE will be this TSS minus SST. So we got SSE as 11,558.8, right? So we got all the sum of squares. So once you get the sum of square, next thing is to get the mean square, right? But before that, let me make a table. I will make a table here. this. Let me clear this values. And degrees of freedom is k minus 1. So how many treatment in this example? We have 4 treatments, right? So degrees of freedom from treatment will be 4 minus 1, 3. How many total number of observations? We have 20 observations. 20 minus 1 will be 19. So we have 19 degrees of freedom for total, 3 degrees of freedom for treatment. So what will be the degrees of freedom for error? It will be 19 minus, this will be 19 minus 3, that is 16, right? So we have 3 degrees of freedom from treatment, 16 for error, 19. So what is sum of square due to treatment? Sum of square due to treatment is 26, right? I will copy it and I will paste it. I will paste, let's see, and I will paste the value, right? So what is error? Error is 1155. So I will copy it, I will paste the number. What is total? Total is 37. So I will copy it and paste this as number. So these are the sum of square. So once you got the sum of square, you can go to mean square. So what will be the mean square? Mean square will be sum of square, that means 26, divided by the degrees of freedom, that is 3. So that is your mean square. Similarly, for here you can copy, that means this will be 11558.8 divided by 16, that is mean square. Now what is f? F will be this value, that means treatment divided by error, right? So this is equal to 8744 divided by 722. So we got the value for f as 12.105, right? So this is our calculation. Our calculation is done. Now you need to compare the calculated value of f. This is calculated value, right, of f. You want to compare this with tabulated value. Now to compare, you need to know the degrees of freedom of f, right? df of f is 3, 16. 3 for treatment, 16 for error. So this will be 3, 16. This is the degrees of freedom. So just like in our previous class, we used a website for calculated values, tabulated values. Here also we will use the same reference, but this time we will look into the f table. So this is f section, tabulated value of f test. Now 5% level of significance is default, so it is set as default. Now we are interested in degrees of freedom 3, 16, right? So I will set this first degrees of freedom to 3 and the next one to 16. So the tabulated value of t-test for 3, 16 degrees of freedom is 3.2389, right? The value is 3.2389. 3.2389. This is tabulated value. And what is our calculated value? Calculated value is 12.10. So obviously our calculated value is way greater than our tabulated value. So what will be the conclusion? We should reject our null hypothesis, right? Now what is the null hypothesis in this case? What is the null hypothesis in this example? So suppose there are 3 different treatments A, B, C, D. Your null hypothesis is that the effect of or the average effect of these 4 treatments are not significantly different. That means average of A is equal to average of B is equal to average of C is equal to average of D. That is your null hypothesis. And now in this case we found out that our null hypothesis is rejected, right? That means their average is not same. And obviously if you look into the data closely, these figures roam around 50. These are all 90s, 80s values, right? These are fluctuating a lot, and all these data are somewhere 150 is values, right, with one exception. So obviously their average will be way off from one another. That's why our null hypothesis is being rejected. The next design is RBD, or randomized block design. So there is a word called block, right, in the name. So here we use or we construct block to make our experimental space homogeneous, right? Now each block will contain the different treatments. So suppose you have 5 treatment to be applied to your observations, right? And you have divided the experimental area into 3 blocks, say A, B and C, right? So block A will have all the treatments. Let's say the treatments are T1, T2, T3, T4 and T5. Block B will also have all the 5 treatments. Similarly, block C will also have all the 5 treatments, right? So RBD uses all the 3 principles because we are dividing our experimental area into homogeneous group. That means we are applying local control, the concept of local control. That means apart from replication and randomization, we are also using the concept of local control. So all 3 principles are applied here. The number of observations are divided into some homogeneous groups, which we call as blocks, and then the treatments are allocated randomly to the members of each group, right? So suppose you have 30 people, an experiment is supposed to be conducted on 30 individuals, right? And we have divided them into 3 groups, right, or 4 groups. Let's say there is group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4 and let's say group 5 groups, right? And we have 6 treatments. We have 6 treatments: A, B, C, D, E and F. So in the group G1 there will be, since we have total 630, so there are 5 groups, so everyone will have 6 members, right? 6 members, everyone will have 6 members. Now all the 6 members will get one treatment each, right? So let's say A, B, C, D, E, F. That means the first member of group 1 received the treatment A, second received B, third received C and so on. You can completely randomize this. That will give you the principle of randomization. Now this treatment A is applied to one member of group 1, one member of group 2, one member of group 3, one member of group 4 and one member of group 5. That means there are 5 persons who received treatment A. That means there is more than 1 people receiving the treatment A. So it is replicating. We are repeating treatment A, right? So we are making homogeneous group. So we are applying local control, right? Every member are randomly allocated a treatment. So we are using the concept of randomization, and one treatment is allotted to more than 1 people or more than 1 individual. So we are using the concept of replication. So what is the general layout or the structure in which RBD are constructed? So see, we have block 1, we have block 2, we have block 3 and we have block 4. And in the first block we have given the first member treatment A, the second member say it received the treatment E, the next one received treatment B, the next one received D and the next one received C. So we have 5 treatment A, B, C up to E and randomly allocated, or so every member got a treatment randomly. In the second block or second group, the first member got treatment E, next got D, next got C, next got B and A. Similarly, C, B, A, E, D, and in the last group it is A, D, E, C and B. That means in the first group there will be 5 members, right? First member, second member, third member, fourth member and fifth member. Every member of that group will receive a treatment, let's say a medicine. So we have 5 types of medicines and 4 different categories of patients, right? Based on maybe age, maybe gender, maybe types of disease or the severity of disease, right? So in the first group of patient, we randomly given the first member medicine A, second member medicine E, third member medicine B and so on. Similarly, in the second group, we have given the first member medicine A, E, second got medicine D, medicine C, medicine B, medicine A. So this is how we construct a RBD. So here we have 2 factors. One is treatment, right? Or in this example, medicine. Another is group, right? Or blocks, right? We have treatment and blocks. In this example, we have medicine and group of patients, right? So we are interested in case of CRD, completely randomized design, we were only confined to treatment, right? But in case of RBD, we can check whether the effect of medicine are significantly different or effect of groups are significantly different or not. That means we can test 2 things simultaneously, right? So the ANOVA table for RBD is, now this test here we have 2 F values, right? So that's why it is called two-way ANOVA. Our data are divided or grouped according to 2 criteria. One is according to the treatment, one is according to the blocks or groups. That's why it is called a two-way ANOVA. And that's why we calculate 2 different Fs, right? One for treatment, one for block, right? So here we have K treatments and R blocks. So we have divided our experimental area into R groups and we are applying K different treatments. Since we have K treatments, that's why degrees of freedom for treatment is K minus 1. Since we have R blocks, that's why degrees of freedom for blocks is R minus 1. And in total we have N values, so minus 1, N minus 1 degrees of freedom for total. Now what will be the error degrees of freedom? For error it will be N minus 1 minus these 2 values, that means R minus 1 minus K minus 1. Now this will give you N minus 1 minus R plus 1 minus K plus 1. This minus 1 plus 1 get cancelled, so N minus R minus K plus 1. If you simplify this, you can write it as K minus 1 R minus 1. Why? Because if you have divided N values into R groups and K items in each group, this N is nothing but K into R. So if I replace here N as K into R minus K plus 1, this will give you K minus 1 R minus 1. So this is the degrees of freedom for error. How we get the error degrees of freedom? If you subtract treatment degrees of freedom and block degrees of freedom from total degrees of freedom, you will get error degrees of freedom. The The quantity that we calculate from the data are sum of squares. So this is sum of square due to treatment, sum of square due to block, sum of square due to error, and total sum of square. Calculation of sum of square, total sum of square is exactly same as CBR. In case of CBR, how we calculated the total sum of square from raw sum of square, the exact procedure will be followed here. Similarly, for treatment, just like we have calculated in case of CRD, that will be applied here also. And the new thing that in this model is the SSB, that means sum of square due to blocks. Now sum of square due to error is in the same way will be obtained by subtracting these two quantity from total sum of square. We will get SSE by subtraction, and calculation these are as usual. This divided by their degrees of freedom will give us the mean squares. Once we get these three mean squares, we will calculate the F. Remember here MSE is always at the bottom, that is constant. At the denominator we will always write MSE, right? So this is the structure. So here at the end we will conclude about the model or the hypothesis based on the value of these two F. Now what are the hypotheses? There will be two hypotheses, H01, H02. First one is the treatments are not significantly different. The groups or blocks are not significantly different. These are the two hypotheses that we test in case of two-way ANOVA, right? So let me go back and explain this process using an example, right? So this is an example of RBD. We have four blocks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 6 treatments A up to F, and the values, that means these are nothing but yields, right? These are yields. So the yields under every block and every treatment are given. It is not necessary that your data given in the question will be as symmetric as this. It may be given completely randomly, just like in this example. Here we have block 1, 2, 3, 4, but the treatment values are randomly allocated. So the question may give you values randomly. Then you will have to create this table by yourself. So in this case, we have simple values under each treatment in each column. And if you add values in these rows, those will be total of the first block, second block, third block, fourth block. That's why these are called block totals. If you add a column, this will give you the total under treatment A, treatment B up to treatment F. That's why these are called treatment totals. So I will calculate. And the total of treatment A is 119, and I will do the same calculation for the rest of them. Similarly, I will calculate sum of all these values, right? This will give me the total of block 1, and if I copy, that will give me the total of all the block 4. Now if I apply the same thing, this is nothing but addition of this or addition of this. This value, this over here 588.7, is nothing but your grand total, right? So this will give you the grand total, which is 588.7. Might be some mistake. Let me go and okay, this is 588.7. So we found out that our G is 588.7, right? So what are the different things that we will need Let me write down. So we will need first of all RSS, the raw sum of squares. Then we will need G. Then we will need the number of observation. Then we can calculate CF by using G square by N, right? Once you get CF, you can calculate total sum of square by subtracting CF from raw sum of square, right? So then we will calculate sum of square due to treatment by, in this example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 treatments. So T1 square, or let me TA square to be specific, treatment B square, total of C square, total of D square, total of E square plus total of F square divided by, now this is a tricky part, divided by, so if you are calculating SST, that means for treatment, so you will have to divide it by how many observations are there under its treatment. So every treatment has 4 observations, right? Or in short, treatment totals divided by number of blocks, block totals divided by number of treatments, right? So we have 4 blocks, so we will divide it by 4 minus CF. Similarly, we will calculate sum of square due to blocks. So block 1 total square plus block 2 total square plus block 3 total square plus block 4 total square, and under each block we have 6 items or the number of treatments. So this is 6 minus CF, that is sum of square due to blocks. So we got total sum of square due to blocks, sum of square due to treatments. So sum of square due to error will be TSS minus SST minus SSB. That's all we need as far as the calculation is concerned, right? So let's calculate first of all RSS. So what is RSS? RSS, square of each and every items and then add them. What is the function that I said? It is sum SQ. Sum SQ, I will hit enter and then I will select the data up to this, the entire data, then again enter. So this is my raw sum of square. Now I will calculate CF. CF is equal to G square, right? So 588.7 square divided by number of observations. How many observations? We have 6 treatment, 4 blocks. So 6 4s are 24. So correction factor is 144 0.32, right? That is our correction factor. Now that we know the correction factor, we can calculate total sum of square by subtracting the correction factor from the RSS. So this is our total sum of square, 1349.57, right, approximately. Next we will calculate the, so this treatment totals we have already calculated. Now we will square them. So that means 119 square, similar process, similar for block, 130.3 square, right? That's, this value is not needed and this value over here means the grand total, right? G. So we have block, let me remove this for now, right? So we need the total of B square, so I will add them, and we also need the total of this column. So this is total of the treatment squares, total of block square. So how we calculate sum of square due to treatment? It is given by the total of treatments divided by number of block 4 minus CF. The value is 903, right? What is sum of square due to blocks? SSB will be equal to this block square total divided by number of treatments, which is 6, minus correction factor. So 218. Fine. So we got sum of square due to treatment, we got sum of square due to block, we got total sum of square. The next step is finding out sum of square due to error. So sum of square due to error will be total sum of square minus sum of square due to treatment minus sum of square due to block. So this is sum of square due to error, right? So next we will create the ANOVA table, right? So I will copy this. This is a structure for RBD. I will copy this. I will remove all this value and replace them by their actual values. So there are 6 treatments. So degrees of freedom will be 6 minus 1, 5. There are 4 blocks. So degrees of freedom for block will be 4 minus 1, that is 3. There are 24 items, right? So total degrees of freedom will be 24 minus 1, that is 23. So what will be the degrees of freedom? Degrees of freedom for error will be n minus 1 into r, k minus 1 into r minus 1. K minus 1 is 5 and block is 3. So 5 3s are 15. The same thing you can also calculate by using this is equal to 23 minus 5 minus 3. If you forget the formula for degrees of freedom, simply subtract the available degrees of freedom from total degrees of freedom. You will get the same value, 15, right? So we got degrees of freedom and we already got the sum of square. So I will write it down. The value sum of square due to treatment is 903.60, right? Sum of square due to block is 218.51, right? Sum of square due to error is 227.46, and the last one is total sum of square is 1349.57. So I have rounded down to 2 decimal places. This is sum of squares. Next step is to find out mean square. So what is mean square? Mean square is nothing but sum of square divided by their corresponding degrees of freedom. That means 903.6 divided by 5, which is 180.72. The same process for the remaining 2. That means block and error. We don't calculate, I am repeating it again, we don't calculate MS for total, right? So once you get mean square, you can calculate F. Now what will be the F? For treatment, it will be mean square due to treatment divided by mean square due to error. Remember, error will be common in the denominator, right? For block, it will be mean square due to block divided by mean square due to error, which is 4.80. Now the calculation is over. Next step is for conclusion. For this figure, that means F for treatment, the value is 11.92, right? F for blocks, the value is 4.80, right? Or 4.8. These are calculated value, right? We will have to compare them with the corresponding tabulated value. Now how to get the tabulated value? For that we need to find out the degrees of freedom. and the df for each of them. For treatment, for this value over here, that means 11.92, we will have to compare it with what will be the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom for that particular value 5 and error, that means 5, 15. And for block, the degrees of freedom is, for block it is 3, for error it is 15. So 3, 15. So we will need two different values of f. So these are calculated value, right? These are degrees of freedom. We will now find out the tabulated value, and you don't have to prepare a table when you are doing it. So this is tabulated value. So to find out tabulated value, we will go back to this site. So first we will check for 5, 15. So 5 and 15. So 5, 15 degrees of freedom, the value is 2.9013. Copy and paste. This is for 5, 15. And then next one we need 3, 15, right? So I will slide this to 3. So 3, 15 is 3.28477. So I will copy this and I will paste it here. So I will compare. So see, calculated value is 11.92, tabulated value is 2. So we will reject the null hypothesis. Similarly here also the calculated value is greater than tabulated value, so we will reject, right? So both the hypotheses, that means the treatments are equal and the blocks are equal, are being rejected. That means treatment and blocks are not equal. Treatments are different, blocks are also different among themselves. So this is how we calculate for RBD, right? So there is another example over here where we have different sources: block, treatment, error, total. We have some values given, but a part of the table, that is ANOVA table, is missing, right? So for that we will complete the table, right? So how to complete the table? Here the degrees of freedom for block is given. So if the degrees of freedom for block is 4, then in that experiment, how many actually blocks are? Degrees of freedom is always less, so there must be 5 different kind of blocks. Since the treatment is 3, it is 3, so total number of block or treatments will be 4, right? So there are 5 blocks, 4 treatments. So 5 into 4, that means there are 20 total observations, right? So if there are 20 observations in total, then what will be the degrees of freedom? The degrees of freedom will be 20 minus 1, 90, right? How we got this? From these degrees of freedom, we will find out how many blocks there are. We will add 1. From this number of treatments, we will find out how many treatments are there. We will add 1. So we found out that there are 5 blocks and 4 treatments. When you multiply this to value, you get the total number of observation, which is 20. If you subtract 1 from that, you will get the degrees of freedom from total, right? Now what will be the degrees of freedom for error? That will be 19 minus 3 minus 4. So this is equal to 19 minus 3 minus 4. So what is the value? 12. The same thing can also be attained by multiplying 4 and 3. It is same. If you multiply the degrees of freedom for block and treatment, you will get a degrees of freedom for error. Okay. So we know the degrees of freedom. Now here it is sum of squares, right? We are given sum of square. So if you know the sum of square, then you can find out the mean square, right? Because mean square is nothing but sum of square divided by corresponding degrees of freedom. That means mean square for block will be 26.8 divided by 4, which is 6.7. Okay, but for treatment we don't know the sum of square, so how we can calculate mean square? It is not possible. But here you can see that mean square for error is given. So mean square for error is given. So if mean square for error MSE is equal to 2.5. So what is the formula for mean square error? It is sum of square due to error divided by degrees of freedom. Now what is the degrees of freedom? N minus 1, or you can say k minus 1, r minus 1, right, is equal to 25. Now if we want to get the value of sum of square due to error, you can simply multiply this 25 by the degrees of freedom. So in our case, this 2.5, in our case the degrees of freedom is 12. So if I multiply this 12 and this 2.5, I will get the value of sum of square due to error, right? So 2.5 multiplied by the degrees of freedom will give me the sum of square, which is 30, right? So we have sum of square due to block, we have total sum of square, we have error sum of square, but the thing that is missing is treatment sum of square. Now the relationship between them is that sum of square due to error is obtained by total sum of square minus sum of square due to treatment sum of square due to block. This quantity is missing, SST. So what we can do is we can exchange them, right? We can interchange them. So SST will be given by total sum of square minus sum of square due to block minus sum of square due to error, right? So I will use this formula to get sum of square due to treatment. So this will be equal to total sum of square minus sum of square due to block minus sum of square due to error. Enter. So this is treatment sum of square. When you get the sum of square and degrees of freedom, you can obviously calculate the mean square by dividing 28.5 by 3, the degrees of freedom. So mean square for treatment is 9.5, for block is 6.7, and for error it is 2.5. So once you get the mean square, it is very easy to calculate f. F will be 6.7 divided by 2.5, right? And for this one will be equal to 9.5 divided by 2.5, which is 3.8, right? So we got calculated value. Now we need the F, we have treatment, we have blocks. The degrees of freedoms are, for treatment F, degrees of freedom for treatment F, the degrees of freedom will be 3, 12, treatment and error. So it will be 3, 12. For block, the combination of degrees of freedom for testing F will be, for block 4, for error 12. So this will be 4, 12, right? So here at first we will calculate 3, 12. So 3 and 12. And for 3, 12, the degrees of freedom is 3.4903. I will copy that here, paste it. For 4, 12, the value is 3. Right? And our calculated value are Control C, Control 2.68, and this is 3.8. Now for treatment, the calculated value is less than the tabulated value. So the conclusion will be accepted, right? But in case of block, the calculated value is greater than tabulated value. and that's why we will reject it. That is the conclusion. So this is how, when a table with some incomplete cell is given to you to fill up, you can calculate the different values. The same will be applicable for your CBR, completely randomized CRD, completely randomized design, and RBD. And even you can also calculate them for LSD. Right? So we have done examples of completely randomized design and randomized block design. The next design that we will be discussing is LSD, right? So LSD is very special kind of RBD, or a special kind of design, because it will have equal number of treatments and equal number of blocks. So everything will be equal here. It is a very homogeneous kind of design. If you have equal number of treatments and equal number of groups and equal number of times the treatments are repeated, then we apply LSD. Here, each treatment occurs once and only once in each group, right? All three principles are applied. So what is the layout? The layout is, suppose you have 4 treatments A, B, C, D to be tested. You have 4 treatments. So you will divide the entire space into 4 rows and columns, right? Equal number of rows, equal number of columns, and this should be equal to the number of treatments. So the size of your this division, or this matrix you can say, or this table, is decided by the number of treatments. So if you have 3 treatments ABC, your division will be a 3 by 3 matrix or 3 by 3 column table. If you have 2 treatments to be tested, A and B, it will be, yes, 2 by 2, right? So if you have 4 treatments, this is a 4 by 4 Latin square. These are called Latin squares. 4 by 4, this is 3 by 3 Latin square, this is 2 by 2 Latin square. So how you give the values? So the condition is that this treatment A can occur only once in this row or this column or this row. So a treatment can occur only once in a row or a column. You cannot write A and then again A. A treatment cannot occur twice in the same column. So how we can give A, B, C, D, B, C, D, E, C, D, E, D, A, we don't have E, so D, A, B, D, A, B, C. Now see, in this first column, A is occurring once, B is occurring once, C is occurring once, D is occurring. In the second column also, everyone is occurring once. If you should check per row, you will see every treatment is occurring only once. This is a way of allocating or distributing your treatments to the different rows and columns, right? So this is the way you design a layout for LSD. Now in case of CRD, we have only one factor, that is treatment. CRD. In case of RBD, we have treatment and blocks. But in case of LSD, we will have one more thing. We will have row, we will have column, and we will have treatment, right? So with every design, we are increasing the number of factors that can be tested. So CRD is useful if you are testing only one criteria. RBD is useful if you are simultaneously testing 2 criteria. LSD is useful if you are simultaneously testing 3 criteria, right? And the ANOVA table for LSD is this. This is quite similar to RBD. The only difference is that you will have same degrees of freedom from all rows, columns and treatment. Why? because I said that equal number of the number of treatments equal to number of rows equal to number of columns. Everything is same. That's why rows, if they have m treatments in a design, there will be m rows, m columns. So degrees of freedom from treatment is m minus 1, m minus 1, m minus 1. In total, if you see, if you have 4 treatments, the Latin square is 4 by 4 is equal to 16, right? That means 4 square. There are 16 these small boxes. Each box is called an experimental unit. So if you have m treatments, the number of box will be m square. That means total number of observation will be m square. That's why total degrees of freedom is m square minus 1, right? The next step is to calculate this sum of squares. Once you get the sum of square, you will calculate the mean square. Once you get the mean square, you will calculate the f. And conclusions are done as similar as RBD or CRD. You will compare them with the corresponding tabulated value and you will draw the necessary conclusions, right? So I have not included any example for LSD, but you can try, or you can find out online. You can get examples, or you can refer to any textbook that there you will get an example and you can solve it yourself. So the same process, same procedure that you applied in RBD, the same process will be applied in LSD, right? So this is the structure of the ANOVA table for LSD. Okay. So that brings the end of our today's discussion about designs of experiment. So we have covered the basics that is needed for understanding designs of experiment. So that's all for this one. See you in the next one.